host, Michael Cargill, brought to you by Texas Law Shield. Over the last decade, Michael has championed and supported the rights of law-abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, a veteran of the United States Army, and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Good day, Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. Let's praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. All right, so the one and only used by Kyle Rittenhouse in Kenosha shooting has been destroyed. Actually, that happened this week by Wisconsin Crime Lab. Also, Texas Suppressors Showdown with the ATF. Governor Abbott says it's legal to have a made-in-Texas suppressor. The ATF says, try it, and you'll go to prison. Criminals in Texas are flooding the Houston streets with Glock Sears, a.k.a. machine guns. What's up with that? Also, President Joe Biden on Wednesday signed an executive order on government oversight of cryptocurrency that urges the Federal Reserve to explore whether the central bank should jump in and create its own digital currency. Seems like the government needs some money to fund some plans. We'll talk about that. March of Our Lives, the activist group founded by David Hogg, calls for a ban on so-called assault weapons, high-capacity magazines, and other so-called weapons of war, along with a re-examination of the so-called dangerous District of Columbia versus Heller interpretation of the Second Amendment. The Supreme Court's unequivocal statement that the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to possess firearms for lawful use. He's actually demanding Joe Biden come through on a campaign promise. So we'll talk about that. But check this video out. This is Jussie Smollett?
Jussie Smollett.
Jussie Smollett pleading his case in court.
Okay.
I am not suicidal.
Okay.
I am not suicidal. I am innocent, and I am not suicidal. If I did this, then it means that I stuck my fist in the fears of Black Americans in this country for over 400 years and the fears of the LGBTQ community. Your Honor, I respect you and I respect the jury, but I did not do this, and I am not suicidal. And if anything happens to me when I go in there, I did not do it to myself, and you must all know that. I respect you, Your Honor. I respect your decision. Jail time. I am not suicidal.
Okay. Mr. Uche, let me inquire, are there any post-sentencing motions you care to present right now?
Yes, Judge.
Yes, Ms. Widow.
The defense would wish to present a motion to reconsider sentence and file it in stanter.
All right. It is timely filed.
Thank you, Judge.
And let me say, I've obviously considered the sentence at great length. And it's timely filed, so it's preserved for purposes of appeal. Motion to reconsider sentence is respectfully denied. And is there another? One second, Randy. Anything else? Just a second. Is there going to be a notice of appeal filed?
Yes, Judge. We're filing a notice of appeal. We're going to be emailing to the clerk right now, to the office.
You're doing it in stanter, and are you going to be handling the appeal?
Judge, as of now, yes.
Well, you have to commit to handling the appeal for the appellate court. Okay. All right. Notice of appeal may be filed. Charlotte, and now I need the prosecutors to work with Charlotte, the probation officer, to work out probation specifications. So with the conditions I've just explained, 150 days in the county jail, the restitution, the fines. Oh, and also statutory DNA and costs are ordered as well. That's statutory. So you have to fill out the probation specifications. And I'm going to get somebody to help you do that, but we need to get that done in stanter. Anything else today? Yes.
Your Honor, if I may, in light of the notice of appeal, we would ask that you suspend the jail sentence in light of the in-stanter filing of the notice of appeal.
Did I do what?
Suspend the jail sentence in light of the notice of filing of appeal.
That will be respectfully denied. Yes, Mark. Mr. Lewis.
If it can be stayed in light of our notice of appeal.
No, I'm not staying. No. The wheels of justice turn slowly. And sometimes the hammer of justice has to fall, and it's falling right here, right now. I'm not staying this. This happens right here, right now.
The wheels of justice have come down. Judge says, no, enough of this. Let's stop this. Let's move on with this. He goes to jail immediately. Bailiff put him in custody. Sheriff, he's all yours. Goodbye. Have a nice day. We're done with this guy. You know, the judge had a lot to say about it, Mr. Juicy Smollett. He said, Juicy, you've lied to the public. You've lied to law enforcement.
I am not suicidal, and I am innocent. I could have said that I was guilty alone.
Yes, and now, unfortunately, he's had to be locked up now, right? He's locked up?
Yeah, so we are supposed to believe he didn't do it to himself if he commits suicide. But we kind of know that he has a history of doing things to himself.
Very dramatic.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like this whole little incident here, all doing it to himself. Juicy Smollett. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Our Lord and Savior, Barack Obama, has come down with COVID-19.
Yes, we can.
Oh, I'm going to hear about that when I get home later on tonight. Yes.
Gonna get you for that.
I know. Our Lord and Savior has come down with the Rona.
That's why we need change.
Oh, let me tell you. We got a lot to talk about today. On February 28th, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Explosives denied approximately 850 Form 1 applications for prospective makers of suppressors. This denial, it was apparently made due to a change in the ATF policy regarding certain devices that ATF claims are in reality suppressors, what some people are calling parts kits. So ATF's Form 1 application, technically the ATF Form 5320.1, is the application to make and register a firearm. And this is the application form that applicants who are not licensed to manufacture the National Firearms Act regulated firearms must use to legally create an NFA firearm. Now, under federal law, firearm suppressors called the firearm silencers or firearms mufflers in federal statute are treated legally the same as other firearms and subject to the registration and taxation requirements of the NFA process. And so when we come back from the break, Evan Walker is going to talk to us about what does this actually mean from a legal point of view. I'm sitting at home, I'm trying to make my own suppressor, and I want to do it legally. What does this mean? Now that they've denied some of these forms. Also, the state of Texas has, passed a bill last session that says, hey, you make a suppressor. It's stamped made in Texas. You should be able to own that suppressor without going to the NFA process. Well, unfortunately, the ATF has done a clap back and say, no, Texas, don't do it. Don't try it. So when we come back from the break, I want to talk about this mass denial of Form 1s with Evan Walker, the principal attorney with Texas and U.S. Law Shield. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Peace, this is Maj Toure. You're listening to Come and Talk It Radio with Michael Cargill.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, I'm going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, we're back. We're talking about the ATF mass denial of Form 1. So back in February 28th, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Explosives denied approximately 850 Form 1 applications for prospective makers of suppressors. So let's bring into the show Edwin Walker, principal attorney for Texas and U.S. Law Shield. Edwin, what's going on with this? Why can't I get my suppressor and make it at home?
Well, this came as a shock to many, many people because it's just been par for the course, and it's been done for decades, that people acquire suppressor parts. They then make their application via Form 1. The Form 1 gets approved with no problems whatsoever, and then they assemble their suppressor and they engrave their own name on it. They make up their own serial number. That becomes their suppressor. It's what a hobbyist does. People like me, I don't have the technological know-how to do that. It's just easier for me to go out and buy one. But some people enjoy doing this as a hobby. And now the ATF has come along and said, oh, no, we've been doing it all wrong all these decades that we've been doing it because we have not expansively interpreted the definition of what a suppressor is. So just to let people know that this is the definition of suppressor. It's been the definition of suppressor for a very long time, but yet it's been interpreted with some common sense, and now they've thrown common sense out the window. So a suppressor in 18 U.S.C. 921A24 says the term firearm silencer or firearm muffler means any device for silencing, muffling, or diminishing the report of a portable firearm, including, okay, now this is the important part, including any combination of parts designed or redesigned and intended for the use in assembling or fabricating a firearm silencer or firearm muffler. And then this is the most important part, any part intended only for use in such assembly or fabrication. And so what they've done is that they have now said, look, if you have all these parts, you already have a suppressor, even though they're not put together. And because you have these parts, you should have only been able to acquire them through a Form 4 situation where it is, in which you acquire basically a fully assembled operational suppressors. And so therefore it's impossible for you to get a Form 1 because you should have already had a Form 4 and the tax stamp for these parts. What started this was their raid on this company, Diversified Machines, which they seized their website. They've claimed that they were selling these kits in which this is really kind of an offshoot of the whole Biden administration complaint that basically firearms kits were being sold and are used to make ghost guns, and this stems from the whole ghost gun thing. And so ghost guns, and now we have ghost suppressors, I suppose. And since suppressors are already regulated, whereas your everyday gun control firearm is not as heavily regulated, since firearm suppressors are heavily regulated, this is sort of the easier. This is going to have less resistance for the ATF to come in and really put their boot on people who want to continue to make homemade suppressors. And of course, this flies in the face of what they've been doing for decades. It also brings to light this absurdity that's been in the law since 1934, that suppressors are firearms in and of themselves, which we all know that they should not be defined as firearms. They are not firearms, they're firearm accessories. And so the ATF is really honed in on this definition, in which what's troubling is the word any. Because if your listeners can recall, back whenever the whole bump stock thing was an issue, and a lot of the definitions that the federal government wanted to make for bump stock was any device that increases the rate of fire of a firearm. And people were saying, well, look, that's absurd, because that could mean rubber bands, that can mean shoestrings, that can mean belt loops. What is it? That just opens the door. And unfortunately, the word any has been hiding in the definition of suppressor. And so we can all think of bunches of things that could be used to suppress the report of a firearm. Any device. Does that now include an oil filter, a empty 2-liter soda bottle, a pillow? I mean, those are certainly devices, and they're any device. And certainly people have used them in the past to suppress the report of a firearm. And so now, if I've got a whole bag full of 2-liter bottles, do I now have a bunch of unlicensed homemade suppressors that the ATF is going to charge me with a felony for each one of them for?
Or a bicycle frame.
Yeah.
How would you use a bicycle frame?
Well, it's a tube, basically.
Oh.
Yeah. So what led to this was, people just keep pushing and testing, and so this whole idea that solvent traps were being made into suppressors, or solvent traps were being used as suppressors in the ATF. That's what the ATF has used to kind of justify this, is that there's a bunch of rogue individuals out there making suppressors out of solvent traps. They've been buying solvent traps legally, and they're going to say, hey, now we're going to put a stop to this. And it's just one absurdity on top of another. And unfortunately, we find ourselves in this place. And the only, because Joe Biden is so anti-gun, and because his administration was controlled by these rabid anti-gunners, the only body that has the possibility of stopping the ATF is either a court, which means that somebody will have to make the ultimate sacrifice, and they will have to be arrested, and they will have to be prosecuted, and they will have to go in front of a judge who perhaps can read some common sense and some history into the statute and stop the ATF. And I do not find that has a great probability of happening, or the U.S. Congress. The U.S. Congress will have to step in and rewrite the definition of suppressor and stop all this ATF nonsense. And of course, we know that absolutely will not happen before December 31st, 2022. And of course, we'll have to see how the elections in November go to see if it has the possibility of happening. And also remember, due to our system of checks and balances, anything that the Congress passes, of course, can be vetoed by the president. So who knows? We may have to wait until January 21st, 2025 before anything gets resolved, or the pieces are in place to see that there's an ultimate resolution of this.
Right. And that sends a clear message to Texas. They're saying, hey, Texas, don't even try it. Even though Texas passed a bill that says that if you make a suppressor and it's stamped, made in Texas, that you don't have to go through the NFA process. So this is a big, standing right in front of Texas, said, don't even try it, Texas.
Well, that lawsuit has been filed. So I know whenever the bill was passed, there were a lot of questions about, can people go ahead and start making their Texas suppressors? What has to happen? And the bill was very, very clear, is that before anybody makes a Texas suppressor, Bill Paxton has to sue for a declaratory judgment in federal court, which he did at the end of February 25th, I believe. He filed his lawsuit in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Texas, Fort Worth Division. He specifically did it in the Fort Worth Division because the Fort Worth Division is governed by some very, very conservative pro-Second Amendment judges, led by Judge O'Connor, and who has previously declared parts of the Gun Control Act to be unconstitutional. Of course, he was ultimately overruled by the Fifth Circuit, but he's a very conservative judge. He's not afraid to take conservative positions, and so that's why Ken Paxton filed this lawsuit in that particular United States District Court. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes, and of course, the crux of the whole thing is, how far does the Commerce Clause of the United States Constitution allow the Congress to act in regulating the manufacture and distribution of certain products?
Okay. We come back, Edwin. I want to ask you, so what am I supposed to do? If I want to do this, and I want to do this by, following the ATF rules and policies and stuff, how can I make this happen if I want to make my own suppressor? How am I supposed to get those parts? Do I file the Form 1 first and then get the parts? Or do I, get a Form 4 to get the parts and then file the Form 1 to build my own suppressor? So when we come back from the break, I'm going to ask you, how are we supposed to do this and please the ATF if we're actually, if that's even such a thing in this current administration. We come back from the break, going to talk about that. Also want to talk about, Juicy Smollett. He's screaming, and kicking and screaming. He doesn't want to go. He's not going to commit suicide. He is not going to commit suicide. And so that in itself says something is wrong with Juicy Smollett. Going to talk about that and also some other things that are going on around the country. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hi, this is Stephen Williford, the Barefoot Defender. I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements can and will be used against you because you're not being interrogated. You're just starting to spout off. This is why it's imperative that you know your rights and you shouldn't rely on the police to read them to you. Affirmatively invoke your rights. Say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Empire star Jussie Smollett was sentenced Thursday to 150 days in jail for lying to police about a racist and homophobic attack that he orchestrated himself in 2019, which caused a national uproar as it unfolded, to the point that, people, it's like a conspiracy, saying that President Trump is racist and MAGA and all this kind of stuff, and it just fueled a lot of hate. Describing Smollett's crime as a crime of opportunity and a crime of premeditation, the Cook County Judge James Lynn also sentenced the actor to 30 months of felony probation and ordered him to pay more than $120,000 in restitution to the city of Chicago and a maximum fine of $25,000. The 39-year-old actor will be allowed to travel during his probation and will not be required to live in Illinois during that period. Now, Judge Lynn will allow him to report for probation by phone, and when asked if he had anything to add, Jussie Smollett, who had a set quietly through Thursday's this hour-long hearing, had an outburst in the Chicago courtroom and repeatedly yelled, "I am not suicidal, I am innocent." Take a listen to this.
If I did this, then it means that I stuck my fist in the fears of Black Americans in this country for over 400 years and the fears of the LGBTQ community. Your Honor, I respect you and I respect the jury, but I did not do this. And I am not suicidal. And if anything happens to me when I go in there, I did not do it to myself. And you must all know that.
If anything happens to him, he definitely did it to himself. All right, but now let's change gears a little bit and let's talk about these suppressors. We're talking, if back in the day, if regulations were in place where, we're shooting firearms, I believe that suppressors would have been totally legal, if we had the right mindset, in the beginning, knowing that, these, because I tell you, I have serious tinnitus. I don't know about you. You have tinnitus?
No.
You
not
don't?
like you.
Not like me? Oh,
No.
man, I have serious tinnitus, and I'm telling you, I really wish, I could just, all my rental guns, I just wish they all had, suppressors on them.
You don't know a fun little fact. So the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, they
OSHA.
Well, this is NIOSH.
NIOSH?
But they basically have guidelines for employers that they can't have decibel levels higher than 85 decibels in the workplace for extended periods of time.
Mm.
So they require that workplaces don't have, certain loud sounds that are continuous to damage people's hearing, but you can't have a suppressor on your gun.
All right. And so I'm just curious, Edwin, how can I do this? If I want to make my own suppressor at home and I want to do it legal, how can I go about it and still follow the ATF's rules there?
Well, Mike, I first want to say that your tinnitus is probably due to all of that loud rock music you listen to. You're hippie.
I know, right?
So you're trying to blame the guns when it's actually lots of loud, crunchy guitars.
You're right. It's never the gun. It's never the gun. Gun is never. It's never the issue.
Do you listen to 80s hair bands, Michael?
I do. I listen. I listen to a lot of little rap, rock, disco, everything. Loud.
Basically, what the ATF has done is, if you follow the logic or the illogic in this case, they have made it impossible for an individual to make their own suppressor. It cannot be done, because the thing about it is that unless you are such a craftsman that you can take a bunch of raw materials, as in just flat pieces of metal, and you have the ability to, you have templates, and you have the proper metallurgy skills, and you can roll the metal, and you can press out things, unless you can honestly truly start from scratch in building your suppressor, you cannot logically make a suppressor by accumulating parts.
Wow.
And this is exactly their logic behind ultimately attempting to regulate the homemade manufacture of gun control guns.
Wow.
So you're not, the whole debate is, taking an 80% receiver and milling it out, and you have your collection of parts. And if you have your collection of parts, and they're going to say, aha, you have parts that constitutes a gun, you cannot do this. That's their ultimate goal. And it's just that the easiest thing to start with is our suppressors. And I really don't think that you're going to have the ability to make a suppressor. That's why what they did was, with those approximately 850 letters that they sent out, they weren't outright denials. They were, tell us the parts you already have, send us pictures of the parts, and tell us where you got them. And so what they're wanting to do is that they're going to have enough people who are going to send in pictures, who are going to send in lists. Basically, they're going to snitch on where they got these parts. And I have a sneaking suspicion that every company that shows up as one of these suppressor parts sales distributors, sales companies, they're going to wind up just like Diversified Machine, and they're going to go in and they're going to go, aha, we've got evidence that you sold this part to so-and-so, and we've determined that under our new interpretation of the definition, this is a part. Therefore, you should have done it through a Form 4, and you're illegal. And like I said, whenever I was reading the definition, the most important part of that definition, I feel, is any part intended only for use in such assembly or fabrication. And so what part is that going to be? Is that going to be the outer tube? Is that going to be the end cap? Is that going to somehow be the baffles in the suppressor? What essential part is the ATF going to say, because say is the essential part that can only be used in the manufacture of a suppressor? And so, I was kind of being, facetious, not really, whenever I brought up the whole oil filter, 2-liter bottle, pillow, because obviously a pillow is a pillow. It's something you lay your head on. A 2-liter bottle is something to hold soda. Oil filter is something that filters your oil in your automobile. And so these all have primary functions as devices. They just can also happen to be used as suppressors. So if the ATF determines, hey, this tube, this metal tube can only be used for a suppressor, so therefore anybody who has this metal tube, regardless of whether or not they have these other parts, if you have this metal tube, if you don't have a Form 4 stamp for it, you are breaking the law. You are already in possession of a suppressor. And, we know logically that there's going to be that one part. And so if there's that, like I said, unless you have the skill to roll your own tube, there's going to be that one part that the ATF says, this is the essential part that can only be used for a suppressor. If you have that part, you should have only gotten it from a Form 4. And so I think that's what they're doing, is that they have essentially shut down the homemade suppressor industry.
Wow. Yeah, and I guess the only way to go about it is really just buy yourself a suppressor and do the Form 4 and go that route. And the process has been made easier, and it, until we get, like you said, someone else in office, another president in office, we get more control. The gun community gets more control of the House or the Senate, then nothing's really going to change. Nothing, no one's going to be there to put ATF in check and make them, you know, doing what they're supposed to do. So they're just coming up with policy. They're creating laws. What they're doing, just creating
Yeah,
laws.
and I want to make your listeners aware that while, of course, we all embrace suppressors and we all, decry the illogic of the whole situation, and we wonder why are suppressors regulated as firearms anyway. This is just, we're starting from a ridiculous position. And there was, of course, at the beginning of the Trump administration, the U.S. Congress created the Firearms Owner Hearing Protection Act, which was supposed to just breeze right through and get signed, but somehow it got derailed. Keep in mind, I want everybody to keep in mind that just as passionately as we feel on this side, there are anti-gun folks that feel the same way on the other side. And there is legislation pending right now, or at least there was last year, pending right now to outlaw suppressors altogether, to make them illegal, to totally make them illegal, to say nobody gets a suppressor. And of course, we know the party that filed that. We know the party that supports that. And so keep in mind that while we're saying, yeah, Congress needs to rein in the ATF, there is currently pending in Congress, bills that will outlaw suppressors totally. So we want to make sure, of course, that the Congress never goes that far and winds up just saying nobody gets a suppressor. Oh, and all of you who already have suppressors, we know who you are. We have your address, and you better turn them in, or we're coming after you. You have 30 days to turn them in. On the 31st day, you'll be a felon, and we're coming. We know who you are. We're coming after you.
And that's why midterm elections are very important. That's why, because if the anti-gun community wins, more seats in the House, or they win more seats in the Senate, the anti-gun community already controls the White House. Then the last 2 years before this next election is going to be terrible. So midterm elections are very important. Got to pay attention to what happens in November, because if we lose control, that House, if we lose more control of the House, and we lose control of the Senate, then we're in big trouble, because then that means the other party has full control, full power, over the three branches there. So we're going to be in big trouble if we don't get out and vote on this midterm election.
It is very, very important.
All right, we come back from the break. I want to talk about President Biden and talk about cryptocurrency and this executive order that he signed this week.
Come on, man.
I also want to talk about, we got a lot to discuss. There's some things going on in Washington State, some things going on in Indiana, and also Missouri. A lot of people coming up with constitutional carry, their own versions of it. Going to talk about what states are passing that. Also, Georgia's doing something. A lot of states are trying to pass constitutional carry. Going to talk about that. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Coleon Noir, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
Hello, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm an independent program attorney with Texas Law Shield. I want to talk to you today about an issue that we see on a daily basis. In fact, you yourself will encounter it on a daily basis, and that is the subject of road rage. I am sure that you have all seen road rage. You may have actually been involved in a road rage incident. Now, if you're a responsible gun owner, I'm going to give you a few words of advice on how to react when you find yourself in one of these unfortunate road rage incidents. While on the roadways, we all observe something that makes us upset. Whether it's poor driving, unsafe driving, or just simply somebody being very discourteous. By all means, you should restrain yourself from engaging that person and telling them how bad their actions were, because this can be perceived as an act of road rage. If you're a lawful gun owner, you have a firearm in your vehicle, you do not want to be viewed as the aggressor in a road rage situation. Now, with regard to a situation where an individual has chosen to rage against you, and you are the actual victim of the road rage, if you and the other individuals are still in their automobiles, do not use your firearm to respond to any of the rager's activities. This is because law enforcement views the fact that you're both still safely in your metal boxes as removing any threat of immediacy that you may be harmed. So please, if you have a gun, somebody is raging against you, forget you have a gun. Don't display it, don't brandish it, don't show it, don't point it, and for God's sake, don't fire it. This could result in a lot of trouble for you. Now let's look at a situation where a road rage incident has escalated. It has escalated to the point where one of the participants has actually gotten out of their vehicle. We recommend that you stay in your vehicle at all times. Do not exit your vehicle, because the person who exits their vehicle is going to be looked at as the aggressor. If the other individual has exited their vehicle and they are not in contact with your vehicle and they do not have a weapon, then do not feel that you can display your weapon in an act of self-defense. People are allowed to just simply stand there and scream at you, scream whatever they want. Until they make a demonstrative effort to try to harm you, there is no immediate threat that would justify displaying or shooting or brandishing your firearm. Now, in the event that the person shows their own weapon, in particular a firearm, the existence of their weapon would give you reasonable belief that there was an immediate.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so Zach, I don't know if you remember this. Last year, a state appeals court rejected the Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton's bid to dramatically increase a $9,000 fine levied against the city of Austin for violating a state law banning firearms from City Hall. You remember that?
Lapse in judgment.
When it got up to like $15 billion, right?
So it should be $5.76 million. It should be the fine, but they were only fined. The judge in the lower court only fined him $9,000. So Ken Paxton, and this is all from my complaint, from going to City Hall. So, I went to the AG and I said, AG, the judge only did $9,000 as the fine, and it really shouldn't be $9,000. It should be more than that, because the way the fine should have been assessed, it should have been $1,500 a day for every day they refused to allow a gun owner from going inside the building from the first day of the, me trying to go in the building. And so Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, said, okay, well, they appealed this case to the Third Court of Appeals, asked for $5.76 million. And so the Third Court of Appeals denied that, that request, that claim. And the AG argued that City of Austin continues to improperly ban guns from City Hall for 577 consecutive business days from July 2016 to January 2019, requiring 10,000 per day fines accumulated under 2015. So it says I think the way the law is written, it says $1,500 for the first day and then $10,000 a day for every subsequent day after that is the way the law is.
A lot of money.
Right, which, yeah. So I was actually being nice. I said, hey, it should be $1,500 a day. But then when you look at the law, it says $1,500 for, pretty much for the first day, and then $10,000 per day for every day after that. And so you're talking July 2016 to July 2019, times $10,000 per day, comes out to $5.76 million.
Let me guess, the city is not going to have to pay that much, right? Because the rules are for thee.
Not for E.
They are not for me.
That's right. So the appeals court disagreed, upholding a $1,500 per day fine that was assessed by the state district judge, Laura Livingston, who ruled that Austin violated the gun access law for 6 days in 2016. They said, we cannot conclude that the Attorney General's evidence conclusively established a presumption of continuing violation over the 577 days, said the opinion, written by Justice Melissa Goodwin, the only Republican serving on the Austin-based Third Court of Appeals. Now, so this case now has gone to the Texas Supreme Court. And unfortunately, this week, the Texas Supreme Court refused to hear the case. So I'm not sure where the AG is going to go from here. Now, keep in mind that the law has changed because the legislature, and this may be why they refused to hear the case, because it's a moot point at this point, because the Texas legislature passed a bill on September of 2021 that basically states that now, guess what? Any license owner, license holder can carry in Austin City Hall in city council meetings, or what they call open meetings. So not only can you go into Austin City Hall as a license holder, you have to have a license, because if you do it without a license, it's a felony, 2 to 10 years in jail. So if you do it under the Texas constitutional carry law, you're committing a felony. But if you have a license, you can go to Austin City Hall. You can now go into city council meetings, in a city council meeting, in an open meeting, carrying your handgun, any open or concealed, with a license, and that's totally legal as of September the 1st of 2021. So the Supreme Court saying, hey, it's the Texas Supreme Court says it's a moot point because the Texas legislature, brought a bill for it, and the bill passed, signed by both houses, and signed by the governor. It says, hey, as a license holder, you can actually go into Austin City Hall in open meetings and carry guns. So open meetings is not an issue, and the rest of the building is definitely not an issue. So now, for us to be able to go forward with this, I would have to go to Austin City Council to their meetings there and see if they deny me, keep me from opening carrying my handgun inside, the city council meeting. So we'll see. You want to go with me there? We're going to go together?
You want to go?
Yeah, let's go together. You want to go?
That'd be fun.
All right, cool. Our call-in number is 512-643-5483. Our call-in number is 512-643-5483. Come and talk it. Tell me what your thoughts are. You want to talk about suppressors? You want to talk about City Hall? You want to talk about Calvin Rittenhouse? You know what? His gun was destroyed. I'm upset by that. I don't like destroying guns. Don't like doing it. But let's go to line 2. Mac, you want to come and talk it?
Yeah, I've got a question about the suppressors. Does that device have to be physically attached to the gun?
No. Nope. Does not. So just the mere fact of you having a suppressor, you have to go through the NFA process. You got to get approval from the ATF. It doesn't have to be on the gun. Just we're talking about that device by itself.
Yeah, and the ATF is even saying that if you just have a tube that could be made into a suppressor, then they might even accuse you of having a suppressor.
Well, aren't all ear protection earmuffs designed to reduce the report of a gun?
Yes, you're correct.
So everybody that owns earmuffs or a pool noodle that you want to cut out a little piece and stick in your ear, we're all felons?
You may have a point there. That's That's a good way of looking at it. I'd never looked at it that way. You know what? I think you're onto something.
And not only that, but there's many other industries that use earplugs, like HVAC and heavy equipment operators. Now you've turned a large chunk of America into suppressor felons.
So now we need to get a tax stamp, a form. We need to fill out a Form 4 to have earmuffs.
Yeah, wives whose husbands snore that have, earplugs.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
No, yeah, I think you're onto something, man. I appreciate you. You know what? I'm going to write that one down. You give me something to argue with.
And also, hearing aids. Some hearing aids are designed to cut out high frequency noise.
No, maybe the hearing aid, the ones that amplify noise, those are extra legal, whereas the ones that actually
suppress the
noise, those are the illegal ones.
Need a tax stamp for those.
That could be used to explain the absurdity of their definition.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, you're definitely onto something. All right, I'm gonna have to send that up to the attorneys and see if we can add that to the court case.
See if we can make some more felons out of everyday citizens.
All right, appreciate you. All right, that call-in number is 512-643-5483. Definitely give me a call and tell me what your thoughts are, because I tell you, you guys are smart. You're coming up with some good stuff today. Man, I'm getting it in notes and everything. Great stuff. All right, so I do want to talk about Georgia. Georgia has said, you know what? They passed a bill in the Georgia House, and a similar bill has also passed in the Senate. I guess we got to get together now in those two committees and the conference committee and figure out what bill they're going to go forward with, and go back and get it to the governor's desk to pass constitutional carry. So be able to carry a handgun in Georgia without a permit. So we'll see what happens there. And a lot of states are coming up with this, Zach. A lot of states are saying, hey, let's take a look at this. There's no permit required. Georgia stepping up to the plate. Alabama has stepped up. Alabama says, hey, you know what? They're passing a constitutional carry, their version of a constitutional carry bill. The only thing that's confusing about all this, though, is everyone, they all have their different versions of it. That's the confusing part. Because Vermont, has, I think, one of the very first, I like to call it the Vermont carry, where, you go to the state of Vermont, hey, if you can, you can have the gun, you can own the gun. You can carry the gun. If you can have it, you can carry it. But then, there's some states that say, hey, in order for you to participate in the constitutional carry law in this particular state, you have to be a resident of the state. But Vermont says anyone that steps foot in Vermont, whether you're a resident or not, you're in New York, you step foot in Vermont, you can have a gun. But some other states say, hey, you have to be a resident of that state. And then Texas comes out, with Texas has, I think, one of the most restrictive constitutional carry laws. Texas says, hey, you can't be a convicted felon. You can't be convicted of disorderly conduct discharging a firearm, disorderly conduct displaying a firearm, cannot have terroristic threats. You got to be at least 21 years of age. They come with all these little restrictions and stuff like that with it. It gets really tricky. And a lot of people don't pay attention to the fine print, because in Texas, if you don't pay attention to that fine print, as of September 1st of 2021, they said, hey, if you are a prohibited person and you decide to carry a firearm in Texas and you're prohibited from doing it, and you didn't even know that you couldn't do it, they're going to hit you with a third-degree felony, minimum of 5 years in prison. 5 years from being prohibited, and you get caught with a gun. So people would be crazy not to learn what the laws are before you start carrying a gun. And I know a lot of people excited. Man, constitutional carry is in effect for Texas. Man, I don't need to take a class. I don't need to learn anything. I don't need a license. I could just start carrying a gun. But guess what? If you're a prohibited person and you decide to carry anyway, that is a third-degree felony. You're looking at 5 years in jail for being prohibited from carrying. You decide to carry anyway. And also, my big question to those people that try to talk other people from taking classes, because this last weekend I had someone that say, hey, some of my friends try to talk me out of coming to class. I was like, why? They say, because you don't need a class anymore. You can carry a gun without, taking a class. I said, well, when you go back home tonight, you ask them, when can you use a gun? When can you legally shoot someone? When you can legally threaten someone with a firearm? Can you just pull it out? Can you shoot trespassers? I'm at the gas station. I'm getting gas. I'm putting my information in a pump there. Someone jumps in my car, pulls off. It's daytime. It's like 11 o'clock in the morning. Can I shoot that person? Better come to class and find out. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Brittany Glaze, and I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, President Joe Biden on Wednesday signed an executive order on government oversight of cryptocurrency that urges the Federal Reserve to explore whether the central bank should jump in and create its own digital currency. Now, the Biden administration views the explosive popularity of cryptocurrency as an opportunity to examine the risks and benefits of digital assets, according to a senior administrative official. Now, under the executive order, Joe Biden also has directed the Treasury Department and other federal agencies to study the impact of cryptocurrency on financial stability and national security. Code word, they need to, come up with their own digital currency or start investing in cryptocurrency so they can, fund some of the activities that goes on behind the scene. Brian Deese and Jack Sullivan, Biden's top economic and national security advisors, respectively, said the order establishes the first comprehensive federal digital asset strategy for the United States. So we'll see what happens from this. It's what they're not saying that you got to watch out for. What do you think?
Well, yeah, they're paving the way for government cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah. They'll start regulating now.
They want to.
Oversight. Trying to control.
Yeah, they have the fiat dollar right now, which, so a lot of people don't really understand how many dollars have been printed just in the last 2 years. Do you know how many, Michael?
A lot.
So, of all the money that's in circulation, what percentage of it do you think was printed in the last 2 years?
50.
Up.
Ooh.
More.
70.
More.
80?
80%.
No way. In the last 2 years?
In the last 2 years,
wow,
we have printed 80% of all the money that's in circulation.
Wow, that's crazy. So just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, it's insane just to think about.
Ugh. All right. And also, check this out. Gun sales have been soaring in Lithuania because of Ukraine. You know that? Gun buyers have been flocking to Lithuania stores since the start of the war in Ukraine, with sales increasing up to 8 times and applications for gun licensing doubling. So shooting ranges have also reported a large increase in clients seeking to refresh their skills, or even those wishing to learn to shoot without an intention to buy a gun. They say, hey, I'm not intending to buy a gun, but I just need to learn how to shoot and make sure I'm familiar with firearms just in case. So sales have shot up for all categories of weapons, but the largest demand is for handguns used for self-defense and semi-automatic weapons that could also be used in military situations. So some stores have reported selling as many handguns in a week as during the preceding year. Now, and this is very typical because now, people are like saying, hey, whoa, I need to be able to protect my homeland, my house, my neighborhood, And so, and I love my neighbors, by the way. My neighbors are like that. This past week, we had a little incident where someone had set fire to something in their neighborhood. And boy, my neighbors were on it. They sent out a text message, man, got the fire department there and we're group texting each other. Man, my neighbors are on it, boy. They protect that street. Anything that happens on that street around 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, boy, that's on you. That is on you. I'm telling you now. My neighbors don't play. So yeah, they're on it. I love that. Texting each other back and forth and staying on top of, in detailed information, not gossipy stuff. They're like, hey, this is happening. It's over here on this particular street at this address right here. I love getting those alerts, like that detailed information, let you know exactly what's going on.
Well, that's what neighborhoods are supposed to be about.
That's right. That's right.
Neighbors look out for each other.
Yeah, and it wasn't gossipy stuff. It was detailed information. This is what's happening. This is where it is. The fire department, we're calling the fire department. You call, I'll call, multiple calls. That way they get there and handle the situation. Man, I love that. My neighbors are on it. Criminals would be crazy to come down that street. Just letting you know. All right, so what do you think about the U.S. fentanyl sales fueling the Mexican cartel war? You hear anything about that?
A bunch of Mexican fentanyl?
Yeah, more guns, drugs seized at border. All right, so
I thought it was a bunch of Chinese fentanyl that we have here in the States.
Well,
that too, I'm sure.
More Americans than ever before are dying because of fentanyl, and agents with Custom and Border Protection Offices of field operations say the Mexican cartel could be partly to blame. And already this year, enough fentanyl has been seized at the U.S.-Mexico border to kill more than 700 million people.
That's twice the population of America.
So 1 kilogram, just over 2 pounds of fentanyl has the potential to kill 500,000 people, according to the Drug Enforcement Agency. So what do you think?
I heard that there is this Chinese fentanyl.
Uh-huh.
It's not fentanyl, but it's some sort of, equivalent.
Mm-hmm.
But it's stronger, so much stronger that if you just take a tenth as much as you would for the amount of fentanyl that'll kill you, this stuff will kill you. Like a microscopic fraction will make you OD.
First it's fentanyl, then it's the Rona. What else is coming out of China? Just saying, don't call me. Oh, God, I want to hear the phone calls.
Well, they're going for
eat our lunch.
Yeah, Taiwan is next, right?
Is it? Oh, yeah, they're going to. I'm telling you now, people.
Yeah.
World War III is coming. I'm telling you, when you hear that China has marched in on Taiwan, and the next bit of news you hear about North Korea is starting to do whatever they're doing over there, and now that we're hearing Iran is acting crazy.
Yeah, Iran shot a missile at the Iraqi U.S. Embassy.
Yes, yes. And so you got Iran acting crazy. If North Korea starts acting crazy, at the same time China starts acting crazy, this is we're gonna be hurled into a world war. And if you are not ready, you better get ready. I'm telling you now, if you're not ready, you're a little late to the game.
Are you ready, Michael?
Oh, I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm about it.
Okay.
That's right. Guns, ammunition. I have the water. I have the food. I got my MREs. Do you have
You got body armor?
I got body armor.
You do?
That's right. You don't, but I
You
do.
holding out?
Holding out.
Oh,
I lie. I look you right in your face and lie to you. I got the body armor. Why do you want body armor?
I teach a class on Sundays with some wild cards. Okay.
And so you teach a class, and you just want you make sure you just.
I'm at the range often,
just in case.
You know, I'm a fitness guy. I don't mind carrying something that weighs 20 pounds. You know, like a plate carrier,
right?
That can help with my workouts. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I want it, Michael.
Okay, but how's that going to help you with a headshot, Zach?
It wouldn't.
Okay, so it's not going to help with a headshot, right? So when it's your time, it's your time.
It would help me with a body shot, though.
But when it's your time, it's your time.
That's true.
When
Very
Jesus
true.
says, "Come home," you're going home.
That's true. Let's make that later rather than sooner, if possible.
Unfortunately, you can't get body armor for the entire face.
You can get it for most of your head. Get a helmet.
The top portion of the head.
A helmet.
The helmet, yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually important, to be honest with you. So you're gonna have to wear a Kevlar.
Yeah.
So you got to wear a Kevlar
for sure,
and a bulletproof vest, level 4.
Yep, level 4
for class. All right. I'll see you in the summertime.
Hey, I'm fine with that. I'm not afraid of sweating.
Honestly, I used to wear the bulletproof vest all the time for years while I was teaching classes. For my LTC classes, beginner classes, for years I had a bulletproof vest. And I think I did it for I want to say 7-8 years. And all of a sudden, I don't know, I just stopped, you know? I don't know.
Well,
when it's my time, it's my time.
Hook me up then.
Because I've seen enough, I've seen some things that happen, and I realized that when things happen, things are going to happen. And a lot of things are just out of your control.
That's true. Something really cool I did see. You can buy a hoodie that has armor in it.
Really? And you have backpacks too.
You can buy a polo shirt that is armored.
Well, the president, the president has a jacket and a shirt that's armored.
Oh yeah, and they have suits that are armored.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, that's what the president of the United States has, an armored suit. Every president you see in the United States has an armored suit. Since I want to say ever since Reagan, they've had an armored suit that they actually wear.
You know the thing. You can get stuff that looks normal, that looks good, that is armored.
Yeah,
but that's level 3.
Right, level 3. Still doesn't take away from the headshot.
Well, that's true.
Oh, son of a. That's gonna take away from the headshot. Man, all right, producer, I'm about to hit the button on you.
Dump him.
Start dumping some stuff back there.
We're gonna dump you.
All right, watch it. So you guys don't hear the things that we hear in our ear. We get all those warnings. Watch it. All right, we come back from the break. What do you have left to talk about? We got to talk about Texas. Criminals in Texas are flooding the streets with machine guns. Got to talk about that. And man, David Hogg says, "Hey, President Biden," he says, "Hey, you have a promise to make, promise to keep. With the anti-gun community. We want you to keep your promise." We're going to talk about David Hogg, and we're going to talk about those machine guns down there in Houston, Texas, y'all. Houston, Texas, HTX, y'all. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Folks, this is Doug Man Jones. And I get my gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you, without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements can and will be used against you because you're not being interrogated. You're just starting to spout off. This is why it's imperative that you know your rights and you shouldn't rely on the police to read them to you. Affirmatively invoke your rights. Say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent and my right to my attorney. Once you do that, the police legally shouldn't continue questioning you without your attorney present. But remember, there's a second part to this equation. After invoking your rights, you must exercise those rights. That means you have to keep your mouth closed. Protect yourself. Don't let the legal system take advantage of you after an incident. And Law Shield members, if you've been involved in a self-defense incident, remember to call the emergency hotline and speak with your independent program attorney.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
Well, let me tell you, down in Texas, let's stay in Texas here. So apparently, illegal firearm modifications are becoming prolific in the U.S. metropolitan areas. So Houston is no exception to this at all. So a criminal armed with a modified Glock handgun injured 3 Houston police officers back in January 28th after crashing his vehicle during a chase. Now, the weapon contained a Glock switch, which is a small device inserted into the rear of the firearm, allowing it to fire automatically. Handguns, while easily concealable, are hard to use and require extensive training to be operated effectively. Increasing the rate of fire exacerbates these issues, making automatic pistols incredibly unpopular among military and law enforcement. So because, when you're firing in the automatic mode, it just becomes a little unstable. The recoil of the firearm is happening so fast, you tend to either overshoot the target or, shoot below the target. Typically is what's happening there. So when you put a Glock switch on a Glock, you pull the trigger one time, it will fire every single round in the magazine. Hey, this is a quote from me. That caught me off guard right there. it's when I'm reading an article, reading a story, and they actually quote me in the story. So yeah, it's and this is something that's happening a lot down in Houston. It's becoming a very common problem where people are buying these Glock switches, these little switches, and it's easy to buy them online somewhere. And when you do this, when you buy one, you're actually, and you take possession of it, you're committing a crime. And it doesn't have to be on the gun itself. Just you having the switch, you're committing a crime. And so people are buying these switches online, which they sell, and then they're installing them into their Glocks and turning it into automatic. In order for you to have something like this, you have to be a federal firearms license dealer with a special occupations license in order to have one of these. So not everyone can have every regular citizen can have a Glock switch, where you can fire a Glock in automatic mode. And so, yeah, and I've had news outlets from like all over the place try to get me to do news stories on this. And I'm actually, this year is the first time I've just started turning down a lot of news outlets and refusing news stories. And I'm talking your national news outlets, because there's one, they wanted me to go down to the range. They want me to get a Glock switch and put it on the Glock and actually fire the Glock. And I just refuse to do this story because one, I don't want to contribute to, what criminals are doing and teaching people, how to do this, this, because only criminals are doing this. Your law-abiding citizens are not doing this because, one, that's a waste of ammo. And ammo is hard to get, and it's going to be it's hard to get now. It's coming back in stock a little bit, but it's going to be even harder, come next year. So firing a firearm in automatic mode, like I said, to me, it's just a waste of ammunition. What do you think?
It's a lot of fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
To do it at least once or twice, a couple of times, it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But then outside that, that's it. Not for self-defense.
Good for suppressive fire.
Yeah, but not for self-defense. Suppressive fire, if you're, we're repelling. If I'm repelling a military force or something like that, absolutely.
Well, just think about it. For self-defense, if someone is even considering attacking you, and then
I wouldn't fire in automatic mode even for a suppressive fire. That's a lot of ammunition you're going through.
Well, short bursts, right?
I would do short bursts, yeah. Not machine. I wouldn't fire in machine gun. I wouldn't even do 3-round burst. Not even 3-round burst for suppressive
2-round
fire.
burst.
Pow, 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 pow. That keeps that suppresses. It's too much ammo. Any other one, you're talking unless how big is your magazine?
Well, the United States government says that to kill one enemy combatant, it takes 10,000 rounds of ammunition.
Really?
Yep.
That's a bad shot.
Yeah.
It's a real bad shot. You come see me. I can teach you
government work right there.
One thing I can do is, yeah, definitely don't hire Gomer Powell to do your instructing there. How many rounds is that again?
10,000.
10,000 rounds to shoot one person?
To kill one enemy combatant.
Nah.
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Yeah, you come see me. I teach you how to shoot. Apparently, we can do it really well. Let's see. What else we want to talk about today? Oh, David Hogg. Man, David Hogg. I love the pictures they use of him when you can always tell the type of story, before you read the story by looking at the photo of the story. And take a picture of him with his mouth open and just really weird, facial expression. It's hilarious to me. So the Russian invasion, has everyone all up in arms, and I tell you, Ukraine is doing a really good job in the media aspects. They got that war on social media going. They're winning the war when it comes to controlling the message. Because I was listening to NPR this morning, and all I heard was, my mother who's blind and deaf and she's trying to get away. I said, man, they are winning that war on the message, let me tell you, because they can tell you some stories, and it's just not that I'm not making fun or anything. I'm just saying they're winning the war on the message.
Yep.
Because that's all I hear is how bad Ukraine is, how bad Russia is,
good Ukraine,
and good Ukraine is, and Ukraine's fighting back, and it's almost to the point is like, I'm starting to, I don't like listening to the mass media. If the mass media is saying all the same thing, I'm starting not to believe it now.
Yeah, my buddy sent me a great meme today.
Oh yeah,
I showed you.
Yeah, we have that picture. Take a look. Yeah, take a look at this picture here. I'm telling you, I'm just starting to not believe them now.
Yeah, so
everyone's saying the same thing. Everyone.
Meme. It's basically this.
They're looking
American
at it. They're looking at it right now.
Yeah. So for those who can't see it, for those listening, it's basically this. It's that quintessential male guy that you see on the meme, the side-facing profile of the blonde guy with the beard, that alpha dude. It says, I would like a firearm to defend my family from government tyranny. And there's an American flag behind him. And then
no, and they're saying no.
The typical liberal says, "Wow, you're a racist Nazi terrorist."
Oh my goodness.
And then the next frame, it shows that same guy, but with the Ukrainian flag behind him, and he's saying, "I would like a firearm to defend my family from government tyranny." And then the typical liberal says, "Wow, you're so heckin' brave."
It's funny, people they're cheering on Ukraine, and but then they're saying, "Hey, in the U.S., we can't have the same thing."
Mhm.
I just don't get that. I don't get it.
And I think it was Occupy Democrats. They let out a tweet years ago that said something to the effect of, "No one needs an AR-15. If you think you do, the amount of mental gymnastics you have to do is insane."
Yeah.
And then they just let a tweet out after the Ukraine conflict started, and they say, "Yeah, the Ukrainian government has given the citizens 10,000 automatic weapons. This is great. This is so awesome."
Yeah, those people are crazy over there. Definitely all crazy.
Yeah. They got automatic weapons there. Fully automatic AK-47s.
So let's see. So David Hogg, he says, "Oh man, I lost it there for a second."
Do we really care what he's?
Do we really? No, we don't care.
Yeah,
All right, so
but he said something. It's good to know. We
yeah,
don't.
yeah. Well, he's made a career out of his anti-gun movement.
Mhm.
Is one example of this cognitive conundrum. In between different little tweets he's posted. He says, "Hey, need to stop Putin in Ukraine before he goes through Poland and beyond, and urging the Russian people, rise up against your dictator, stop killing innocent people." He's been posting demands that the Biden administration, live up to its campaign promises on guns and put in action a comprehensive plan like the one Biden proposed. So this kid's like, it's like when you let your kid get on social media and, they're ADD, ADHD, you just let them just have at it,
Yeah, so the media propped up David Hogg because of his anti-Second Amendment message, but there's another kid in his class, Kyle Kashev. You remember him?
Right? Yeah, no, Kyle.
Pro-Second Amendment.
That's right.
Yeah. They don't quite prop him up as
Not
much
at all-
because
not
they
at
don't
all.
like his message.
Don't like Kyle.
Mhm.
They
Yeah, he
never-
advocates for gun rights.
They never like any of the Kyles. What's up with that? Just racist. They hate all the Kyles. Just racist. That's all I'm saying. All right. All right, man. I tell you what, thank you, Zach. I want to thank Edwin Walker from Texas U.S. Law Shield for coming on the show and talking to us about, the suppressors and, what we can do for that. And honestly, we're going to have to take this stuff to court, unfortunately. That's going to be the name of the word, the plan for 2022, 23, and 24 is just take everything to court and try it in court. And we're going to live in court for all of 2022, 23, and 24. As always, more guns equals less crime. You go out there and you buy yourself a gun, you buy yourself a suppressor, you get yourself a lot of ammunition, and keep training, practice, and remember, if you don't remember anything else, more guns equals less crime. You go out there and buy yourself a gun. You listen, Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.